So this happened during an argument that started over something stupid. Not cheating, not money, not anything dramatic. Just one of those normal couple disagreements that's supposed to end with, okay, fine, let's cool off. But she didn't want to cool off. She wanted to win. We're going back and forth, voices rising, and then she hits me with that tone. Calm, smug, like she already decided the ending. She said, "I'm giving you two options. Choose right now." And I remember blinking because, what do you mean, options? She continued, "Either you do what I'm asking or we're done." An ultimatum, in the middle of an argument. No pause, no conversation, no let's talk later, just obey or lose me. And the crazy part is, she didn't say it like she was scared of losing me. She said it like she was confident I would fold, like she'd done it before and it worked. She leaned back, arms crossed, waiting for me to panic, waiting for me to beg, waiting for me to start explaining myself, because that's what she expected. But instead, I got quiet. Not because I was hurt, because I realized something in that moment. If someone can threaten to end your relationship just to get their way, they're not fighting for the relationship, they're using it. So I looked at her and said, "Okay." One word, no begging, no arguing, no bargaining, just okay. And you should have seen her face. At first, she smiled, like she thought she won. Then she realized what I meant, because I didn't say okay like, fine, I'll do it. I said okay like, then we're done. And right after that, I stood up, walked into the bedroom, pulled out my travel bag, and started packing. Right there, same night. No dramatic speech, just actions. And she followed me into the room like, "Wait, what are you doing?" I didn't even stop folding my clothes. I just said, "You gave me an ultimatum. I accepted it." Silence, because she didn't expect acceptance. She expected submission. And the scariest part is, packing my bags wasn't the hard part. The hard part was realizing I should have done it earlier. Before anyone thinks this was some dramatic, toxic relationship from day one, it wasn't. If you met us from the outside, you'd think we were solid. We didn't fight constantly. There was no cheating, no public drama, no social media mess. We looked like a normal couple. I had my own routine, my own friends, a steady job. I wasn't dependent on her financially or emotionally. I wasn't one of those guys who can't function without a partner. And she wasn't a villain either, at least not at first. She was confident, opinionated, the type who always knew what she wanted. In the beginning, that was attractive. It felt like she was decisive, mature. But over time, I noticed something. Her confidence only worked one way. If she wanted something, it was important. If I wanted something, it was negotiable. Small examples started stacking up. If we planned weekends, her plans usually won. If I pushed for mine, she'd say, "It's not a big deal, we can do yours another time." Another time rarely came. Still, I brushed it off, because relationships need compromise, right? And to be fair, she could be sweet, thoughtful. She remembered small details about me, checked on me when I was stressed, showed up when it mattered. That's what made it confusing. It wasn't 100% bad. It was just uneven. And when things are uneven, slowly, you don't notice the tilt until you're already leaning. So when that ultimatum happened, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the first time she said the quiet part out loud. If I'm being honest, the warning signs weren't loud. They were subtle. She never said, "Don't see your friends." She never said, "You can't do that." Instead, she'd say things like, "I just thought we'd spend more time together. I guess I'll make other plans then." Do what you want. And do what you want never actually meant do what you want. It meant, if you choose you, I'll remember it. At first, it felt small. Canceling a hangout here, rescheduling something there, choosing her comfort over my convenience. Normal relationship stuff, right? That's what I told myself. But patterns don't feel dangerous when they're slow. They feel like love. If I went out with friends, she'd be distant later. If I stayed with her, everything was warm and peaceful. So my brain started connecting the dots. Choose her equals peace, choose myself equals tension. And without realizing it, I started choosing peace. I stopped bringing up certain plans. I checked with her before committing to things. I adjusted my schedule to avoid friction. She never demanded it, but she rewarded it. And that's what made it powerful. Because control doesn't always come from rules. Sometimes it comes from emotional consequences. By the time the ultimatum happened, the dynamic was already there. She just finally said it directly. The night of the ultimatum, the argument wasn't even about something huge. It started over a plan I already had, something I committed to before she brought up her own idea. I told her calmly, "I can do yours another day, but I already promised." That's when her energy shifted. She went from discussing to testing. She said, "So that's more important than me?" And I gave the honest answer. It's not about importance, it's about keeping my word. That didn't land well. She got quiet for a second, then dropped the line, "If you really cared about this relationship, you'd cancel it." Notice the wording, not "if you love me," not "if you want to," but "if you care about the relationship." She tied obedience to commitment, and that's when logic kicked in for me, because I realized something. If caring about the relationship means I always give in, then what happens when I need something? I asked her one simple question. What if it were the other way around? She didn't answer. She just repeated the ultimatum. And that's when I knew this wasn't about the plan. It was about control. And control disguised as emotion is hard to argue with unless you step back and look at it logically. So I stopped defending myself. I stopped explaining. I just listened. And the more she talked, the clearer it became. She didn't want a solution. She wanted compliance. That was the turning point. Not the packing, not the breakup. The moment I realized love shouldn't feel like a loyalty test. The moment it finally broke wasn't a huge fight. It was a simple no. She asked me to cancel something again. Not even a big thing, just a plan with a friend I hadn't seen in months. Normally, I would have adjusted, but this time I didn't. I said calmly, "I'm not canceling. I already committed." Silence, because she didn't expect a no. She expected adjustment. And you'd think I'd insulted her. She stared at me like I'd betrayed her. Then she said something that made everything click. "So now you're choosing other people over me?" Not "I'm hurt," not "can we talk," but an accusation. I didn't argue. I just said, "I'm choosing what I already promised." That's when the escalation started. She brought up old sacrifices, old favors, things she'd done for me months ago, like a scoreboard. And I realized something in that moment. Healthy relationships don't keep receipts. Control does. Then came the line you already know, the ultimatum. Do this or we're done. And when she said it, she wasn't emotional. She was confident, because she thought she knew the outcome. She thought I'd fold like before. But something in me had already shifted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I was just done negotiating my own life. So when I said okay and started packing, the power dynamic flipped instantly. For the first time, she looked unsure. For the first time, she realized the threat worked both ways. And once that realization hit her, there was no going back to the old balance. When I started packing, she thought it was a bluff. You could see it on her face. At first, she laughed a little and said, "Okay, stop being dramatic." But I didn't stop. I folded my clothes, picked up my charger, grabbed my bag. No speeches, no anger, just movement. And that's when the tone changed. She went from confident to confused. "Wait, are you seriously leaving? Can we just talk about this? You're overreacting." Funny how it's overreacting when you finally stop tolerating something. I told her calmly, "You gave me the choice. I'm choosing." There was a long silence after that. Not the cold, manipulative silence I was used to, a real one, the kind where someone realizes they miscalculated. She tried to soften it after that, said she didn't mean it like that, said couples say things in arguments, and she wasn't wrong. Couples do say things, but ultimatums aren't slips, they're strategies. You don't threaten the relationship unless you believe the other person is too afraid to lose you. And that's what hit me hardest. She wasn't scared to lose me. She was sure I wouldn't leave. I stayed at a friend's place that night, and for the first time in a long time, my mind was quiet. No tension, no